Experts say ticks are crawling with Lyme disease this year. One man shares his struggle and has a warning for us all.
Potential life sentences for 3 more Minneapolis police officers relating to George Floyd's death.
And a long-standing tradition between a family of ducks and 5th graders continues in Minnesota. Valley News Live at 10 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
There are now federal charges against all 4 officers involved in George Floyd's deadly arrest.
A grand jury has indicted Derek Chauvin and 3 others for allegedly violating George Floyd's civil rights. Reporter Aaron Hazanzadeh explains what this could mean for a state trial.
Find the defendant guilty.
Weeks after Derek Chauvin's guilty murder verdict, federal charges for all 4 ex-Minneapolis police officers that have the potential for life sentences.
The theory of this case is that the 3 other officers failed to render aid.
The 4-page charging document alleges Derek Chauvin used unreasonable force, pinning Floyd to the ground even after he became unresponsive. It also alleges Tu Tao and J. Alexander King failed to intervene to stop Chauvin's use of unreasonable force. And it accuses all 4 of failing to give Floyd medical aid when he clearly needed it.
The federal government has to prove that these 3 co-defendants had the specific intent to violate the rights of Mr. Floyd.
Defense attorney Joe Tamburino, who is not affiliated with the case, says that will be a challenge for prosecutors, especially when it comes to Thomas Lane.
You roll him on the side.
It's really unusual that the one officer at the time who said, hey, let's help this guy, is being indicted.
Remember, Derek Chauvin hasn't been sentenced yet for his murder conviction, and the other 3 ex-officers are still waiting for their state trial set for later this summer. This indictment could complicate things.
I don't see how you could go to trial while you also have federal indictments and you might be in custody, federal custody. So I think they're going to have no alternative but to continue the state's trial.
Continue meaning delay. Everyone but Chauvin appeared virtually in federal court Friday. A transcript reveals that the government doesn't plan to keep them in custody while they wait for their trial.
They probably won't request speedy proceedings, and we could be doing this for the next 9 months to a year easily.
Our sister station WCCO reached out to the defense attorneys in this case. 2 of them had no comment. They're waiting to hear back from the other. The Floyd family attorney says he's encouraged by the charges.
Witnesses say the man who allegedly held 5 people captive during an 8-hour standoff at a bank in Minnesota yesterday wanted a, quote, big show with the FBI. Ray McNeary is facing charges including aggravated robbery, kidnapping, and assault. Authorities say it started when McNeary came to the bank upset about alleged fraud on his account. He became more upset as the bank manager tried to help him with his issue. Authorities say McNeary became violent, started demanding money, and demanded to speak to the FBI. As the hours passed on, he was given a large amount of cash and continued to threaten the people he had taken captive. 1 hostage escaped. 3 others were released. The last remaining hostage was the bank's manager.
Some of the hostages were released by the suspect, and some flat out made a run for the door and made it out safely. The last hostage that was being held took his chance and made a run for the door, and as he was running towards the door, both tactical units, ours from the St. Cloud Police Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation's tactical unit, made a simultaneous entry.
According to the complaint, McNeary told them he wanted, quote, lots of media attention and intended to kill them and himself.
A Wahpeton teacher is on administrative leave while the school district continues its investigation into allegations that students were instructed to reenact the arrest and murder of George Floyd inside the classroom. And we're hearing from one of the women who brought the incident to school officials, and she breaks down what students say unfolded in the classroom that day, an account that we have edited down for time's sake.
She said, we're going to do this really quick. And she said, okay, everybody put your hands behind your back. And then she said, can you breathe? And then finally we had to get up and put our hands around our throats, squeeze, see if we could talk, breathe, and check our own pulse. Could we breathe?
The superintendent for Wahpeton Schools plans to hold a news conference on Monday afternoon. You'll be able to watch it live on our VNL News app as well as our Facebook page. A student has been suspended after bringing a gun to Fargo Middle School today. It happened at Carl Ben Eielson. The school's resource officer searched the student and found an unloaded BB pistol. They did not find any BBs or any other form of ammunition, and no threats were made to students or staff.
As crews get ready to repair an iconic statue in Bemidji, there's more surveillance video of people climbing on Paul Bunyan, and it shows the moment his arm starts to break. You can see people climbing and hanging from his arms, and then the concrete gives way. Contact Crime Stoppers of Minnesota at their website or call 1-800-222-TIPS if you have any information. There's a $1,000 reward if your information leads to an arrest.
The CDC has updated its explanation on how COVID is transmitted, placing less emphasis on surfaces and stressing that inhalation is the main way the virus is spread. The agency has been gradually shifting to the idea that the virus spreads through the air, either to be breathed in, to get it into your eyes, or settle into surfaces. The guidance remains the same. Wear a mask, wash your hands, and get the vaccine. Speaking of that, if you're looking to find a place to get the vaccine, use our VNL Vaccine Tracker. It's on the homepage of our website. Or you can open up your phone camera right now, point it to the QR code on your screen, and then tap the link that pops up.
Our warming weather means adventures in the great outdoors. However, take precautions against getting tick bites. Forecasters are saying 2021 could be an especially bad year for Lyme disease. Valley News Team's Aaron Walling spoke with a local man who suffers from it and his warning for you.
Meet Ryan. On the outside, he looks like a healthy 32-year-old man. But in the inside, he is suffering from Lyme disease.
Seem fine on the outside, but a lot of times on the inside, we're under an enormous amount of stress in our bodies constantly.
Everyday tasks sometimes feels like a chore, and Ryan says that he first started noticing these issues 2 years ago. He also can't run a mile or do normal exercises anymore.
And I was having a lot of neck tension, neck pain, tingling in my forehead. I was having dizziness, vertigo, like an imbalanced feeling, kind of like I'm rocking on a boat when I'm walking. But on the inside, I was feeling very miserable. So that's how it all started. It made it extremely difficult and debilitating to even function throughout the day.
This infection is caused by ticks after they bite. The bacteria that passes through doesn't cause any harm, but the body's reaction to it is what causes the problem, and the symptoms vary.
Some people can have more severe disease when it affects their joints and they become hot, swollen, and tender, and they need intravenous antibiotic therapy. And some people may have a facial palsy, which means drooping on one side of the face, something called Bell's palsy.
Sometimes after treatment, the disease goes away, but for some, it sticks with them for years to come.
And I want to tell anybody out there, if you're experiencing strange symptoms and you're told it's all in your head, it's just anxiety, it's just stress, never stop pushing for answers and never stop researching and talking and getting multiple opinions.
In Moorhead, Aaron Walling, Valley News Live.
Lyme Disease Awareness Month runs throughout May. For more information on this infectious disease, visit our website for details.
Legislation that would legalize cannabis use for adults and expunge most minor marijuana convictions is expected to head to a full floor vote in the Minnesota House next week. It's the first time that a legalization bill has advanced this far in the Minnesota State Legislature. The bill's author held forums in more than a dozen cities across the state to bolster support and develop the proposal. He says it has been gaining momentum for its 12th and final hearing next Friday. Minnesota is one of many states that allow medical marijuana, but its restrictions are some of the country's strictest.
The U.S. Justice Department has proposed a new regulation on firearm definitions that would target unmarked weapons, known as ghost guns. Ghost guns can be made with unregulated kits, parts, or 3D printers and are sold without identifying marks. According to the DOJ, from 2016 to 2020, more than 23,000 unserialized firearms were recovered by law enforcement from potential crime scenes. The proposed rule would make it easier for law enforcement to trace unmarked guns. According to U.S. Capitol Police, threats against members of Congress are up 107% compared to 2020. The department added that it is confident the number of cases will continue to rise. Capitol Police made those revelations today in a press release on security recommendations. Those recommendations were detailed in a third preliminary report by the Capitol Police Inspector General. That report itself has not yet been released.
It was an innocent but expensive purchase. Still to come, what a young boy bought on Amazon that his mom couldn't afford that prompted the community to step in and help out. Up next, Hutch is in with a forecast to plan your Mother's Day weekend.